Costello's feet were crushing the sidewalk. He has a stride like never before. The mania was compelling, and it was the first time he was recognizing a high that he knew would end with a devastating low. Managing the panic became the endgame. He knew he was free from danger and on his way to enjoy a nice meal. It didn't matter. The waves of emotion were overwhelming, and his job was to do his best to overcome them. All he could think to do was find the largest margarita pitcher in downtown Los Angeles. There again, he was acknowledging his acquiescence to crutches. The fine line between crutches and simply enjoying the finer things in life. He had to convince himself getting buzzed off a pitcher of margaritas was far different than chugging pint glasses of straight tequila. Or was it? Regardless of the outcome, he knew tomorrow would come and offer him another chance at redemption. Drink the fucking margaritas. Eat the food. This is all normal shit, right? Just as this realization set in, there it was. Outdoor setting, the smell of Mexican food, and pictures of margaritas on nearly every table in sight. A very cheerful hostess greeted Costello with a brand new name badge on that read Avery. She asked if he wanted to sit inside, at the bar, or on the patio. He was confused why so many people were there at noon, so he stammered a bit and then came right out and asked Avery why the restaurant was so packed so early. She pointed out that it was very common on a Saturday, especially since they offered unbeatable prices on drinks from noon to 4. He kept forgetting it was Saturday, so he again couldn't handle the conversation with Avery. She noticed a couple behind Costello becoming impatient, so she kindly had him take a seat nearby at a sidewalk rail. After seating the couple, she came back and said something that pushed him even further from speaking. Avery told Costello she knew him. She worked with Jenna merchandising and was with her when Jenna first met Costello at his bar. She spoke to Costello so compassionately. Avery said, "I know you've struggled with what happened with Jenna, and I'd love to talk more. In fact, there are some things I think you should know. I'm going to be slammed this shift, or I'd sit with you. But can I give you my TikTok?" Costello responded, kind of taking a social media hiatus. Can I give you my phone number?" "Okay, Grandpa," Avery said while laughing. She sat him at a nice, shady corner and took his number. Costello spent the next 15 minutes trying to get back to acting like a functioning adult. Halfway through the pitcher of margaritas, he started to relax. Then the albatross showed up. Costello checked the time. 2 p.m. 2 more hours of $12 pitchers. That could be at least 3 more if he slides back into his inquisitive self. Even worse, he considered opening up his wallet and ordering sidecars of añejo. Then, of course, who knows what's in store for him once he heads home. Fortunately, he was interrupted before the hooks sunk in, and he started down that path. Avery walked over at the most awkward moment, yet extremely helpful time. She asked Costello how he was doing, and he gave a very disturbing rendition of a completely stable human, but he asked for a glass of water. He said he was going to have one more pitcher with another bowl of chips after a quick water break and then be on his way. Avery flattened her face in a look of approval and said she would let his server know. As she walked off, he sensed a calmness in him around her and suddenly became very glad he gave her his number. She was a bit of a deflection from the darkness he was crawling towards while thinking about how fucked up he could have gotten. Then she walked over carrying a calm and steady power capable of pivoting him away from self-destruction. Right at that moment, his server came over with another pitcher of margaritas. Costello nearly asked for him to take it back, but opted to just mitigate the air casually. He thanked him and asked him for a glass of water. There was no need in becoming a fucking prude. The entire scenario seemed to pick Costello's chin up. He'd never really been one to find pride in himself. Most everything he did was to please others. He was proud of himself. 35 years on the planet, 2 states of residence, and finally enough money to sustain a life he would be comfortable living. And Costello may have finally found one of the markers missing in his life. He stuck his straw directly into the pitcher and started drinking like a maniac. The entire thought of this bizarre self-respect was actually making him ill. He caught a couple gazing at him as he sipped from the margarita pitcher as though he were clipping his toenails in public. It gave him a fantastic chuckle, but he came to his senses and went back to being a civilized member of society. Just another social security number guzzling poison to shift the senses and find comfortability. All of this did seem to boil everything surrounding Costello down to one thing, and all the pressures appeared to be somewhat wiped away. He felt a wave of calm and the ability to sit without the anxiety of wondering what he should be doing when there was nothing for him to do. He honed in on the bike tour to Maine. It was like a grand piano fell from the sky and crashed right next to Costello. Cycling 3,100 miles is going to require conditioning and preparation. All this Zen self-reflection allowed Costello to forget about the work. He's weaning himself off the booze with an assembly line of margaritas. Suddenly his manic high came back to earth. He had to put the landing gear down so he could start to get serious about accomplishing the one thing he's been living for as far back as he can remember. He caught a glimpse of Avery and suddenly realized she's gorgeous. He was so caught up in her kindness and shocking association to Jenna, he looked right through her beauty. Costello suddenly didn't want this opportunity to go by the wayside. Maybe she was just being nice and had zero intention of calling him. She asked for his social media, which he was becoming further distance from, so she could have just wanted to stalk his socials. He's seen this movie before and wasn't going to fall for it again. He flagged her down as she passed by. She nodded and made a gesture she was in the middle of something, but sure to return. His last pitcher ran dry, and now he's between the proverbial rock and a hard place. Order another drink or sit quietly and keep away your server while waiting for Avery to make her presence. Fortunately, Costello's luck came through, and she appeared like his own personal Clara Barton. Avery was immediately more soothing than any of Costello's medication or alcohol. She took a break and pulled up a chair, casually garnering his invitation. Her energy was so remarkable, even if he wanted her to leave, he wouldn't have known what to say. She told him she did what she could with his bill, but to expect a pleasant check. As he was thanking her, she quickly told him she didn't have much time, but wanted to make sure he knew she would call him, hoping they could meet up so she could tie up loose ends for both Costello and herself. The vibrant energy filled his space so full he suddenly found himself full of words. The synapses were firing so well, he was pulling thoughts he'd just manifested and collaborating them with old thoughts. In the end, all of it summed up with Costello confessing about his cycling tour to Maine, and with astounding bravado, reaffirming with Avery they would meet soon. He was hoping for a network of amazing people he could reach out to while he would be on the road from Los Angeles, through the Southwest, Middle America, and on to the Mid-Atlantic. Avery expressed excitement in a hurried fashion and cut Costello short so she could return to her shift. Costello insisted she return to her shift and shut his mouth. He received nothing but positivity, and he was taking it all day. The walk back to his place was the highest he'd been in years. Sure, he just drank 3 pitchers of margaritas. He felt as though he approached a cliff and sauntered his way to the top. His realizations were sound. His social skills were acceptable. He felt great about Avery. The tour to Maine was not only becoming a realization, but might turn out to be the catalyst for a new relationship. It was almost as though he wasn't going to turn himself into the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department for possibly murdering 2 people in Seattle once he returns from the East Coast. Almost.